I initially thought was pronounced Comanavago or even Comanavago is in fact pronounced Comanavago, because their EP is called If You Think You're Hard Enough. So it's come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Come and have a go! Very clever indeed, and they are a duo that I've been following since last year. They put out a couple of singles, was very interested. Tracks like Angel, I've been playing quite a bit. The Crying on the Kitchen Floor, I think that did actually come out in 2019, which I thought was a really strong single. Since the get-go, I found their style, their aesthetic very intriguing, very interesting. I think the vocals are really impressive. I just was really excited to see where they were going to go, because it seemed as though they could put out a song that was very different to the previous song that they put out, and yet each time they just killed it with whatever the hell they were doing. Annihilation cemented that for me, because hearing that as a single just blew my mind. The way this track just slaps so bloody hard, and yet it doesn't really sound like anything that I'd heard from them previously. So I was like, man, this album, it's going to be filled with so much diversity, so much range, and each track so far, all the singles, are just so impressive that it seems as though whatever they're going to do on an album is just going to kill it. And I was super excited, and you know what? It didn't even let me down. Not even one bit. This album has not let me down at all. This is bloody great. Comanavago have given us here an album that just celebrates all eras of dance pop music, all eras of synth pop music, really. It's very much indebted to the 80s at points, even some 90s. You can't even throw away the 2000s, because Comanavago, they're gonna do it all. The vocal performances are stellar every time. I think Gabe is one of the most impressive singers around right now. I can't believe this is a debut album, and Gabe is just giving everything in these vocals. There is not one track that just feels half done. There are no half measures here at all. Gabe gives these vocal performances everything, and it's weird because sometimes with a debut album you'd usually look and think maybe next time around the vocalists could, you know, show us a bit more range, show us a bit more with their voice and things like that. You know, just as a debut album, as a general rule, sometimes it can be like that, but I just can't really think of what they could improve here. The synths are absolutely killer on the opening track. The production is produced so damn well. The vocals give so much emotion. When it rains. Talking about how, you know, obviously when things get rough, when things get tough, they get absolutely tough. It comes pummeling down on you, and it just is something that you cannot escape. If that's not enough though, we get falsetto on the next track, which sometimes can put me off depending on how an artist uses it, but not here, because this track is produced to perfection. I love the way the synths kind of descend and the vocals just match it at every point, just showing so much range in vocals, because we just have these moments that are completely different to one another, and nothing ever really sounds out of place. Could you possibly argue that, you know, maybe too much is being done on one album? Maybe, yeah. I mean, sometimes that can be an issue. It can be distracting, and it's subjective to each listener. But for me, my God, if they're just killing everything they try and do, then I don't really mind if each track is just kind of like stylistically a little bit different to the next one. Do What You Like though is just so damn sensual. It is groovy as hell. It actually reminds me of something the Scissor Sisters would have done back in the day. I don't even know if Comanavago even had Scissor Sisters in mind when they made this, but there is something just so damn infectious about this track. Very flirtatious with the lyrics, just essentially telling whoever you fancy, I guess, to do whatever you like with everything. Very simple theme, and the presentation of the lyrics is just so straight to the point that it's incredibly simple just to listen to, but it doesn't matter at all. Like, it doesn't matter how simple this track is, because the vocals are just so damn show-stopping. Like, the performance here makes Gabe sound like a rock star who's been in the business for years. Who is giving it all like this around at the moment? I can't really point to many vocalists who sound like they should be topping the charts on their first album. But we know this will never top the charts because the UK charts make no sense. Nothing makes sense in the UK, and the taste of the music public consumers is very strange. They'd rather listen to Lewis Capaldi than this. The track Playboy reminds me a lot of some of the PC music type stuff. A lot of that kind of stuff is very experimental, very strange, very odd, and this track just has that vibe totally. It reminds me even of what Dorian Electra was doing on the album from last year, Flamboyant. Just kind of how like the vocals are very soft, very whispery, but the instrumental is kind of like in your face, very, very danceable as well. The feature, Katy Perry, puts in a nice little vocal performance. No idea who this artist is, but they reminded me a lot of Ariana Grande for somehow they reminded me of Ariana Grande. I've already mentioned how much of a slapper Annihilation is. This track just blows my socks off every goddamn time that chorus comes. And holy shit, does it hit so hard. I've mentioned all these tracks and I've only just hit like the first 5 songs, and it carries on to track 6 too with In Love, and this run, tracks 1 to 6, is unstoppable. Legit one of the best runs on an album I've heard in quite some time, and I don't usually say that very often because it's not a very common thing. It reminds me in fact of the mixtape Floss by Injury Reserve, which I absolutely adore, and I've always said with that mixtape too, where like the run of tracks from 1 to 5 or 6-ish is so stellar. Like, how do you just keep the momentum going for that long, and every track is just an absolute hit? And this album is exactly the same as that. So damn catchy is In Love. Like, how you don't dance to this, I do not know. I will say from there though, the second half of the album, it does hit a bit of a sea change. I think this album is quite front loaded. I would say all of the best songs come in the first 6, and the ones after this are still very good, by the way. But I just think there's something about how bloody good the first half of this album is that it's actually really difficult to match that level by the time you get to track 7. But I like that they try and do different things in this half of the album. It definitely feels like the more experimental side, if you will, because you have a track like Dreams, which is very down tempo. It's very slow with its pace. The midsection is very disorientating because of the warbling, weird synths that kind of mess with your brain. It is actually a really cool part of the track, and it definitely is different to what we were getting in the first half of this album. The tune at the core of The Storm is very good, but then when you layer it with all of the weirdness that goes on in this track, it just makes for a really strange listen, and I actually think this track is really good as well. The intensity of the warped synths is so hard to stomach, but I actually think it works really well. I appreciate the way that they're trying to take a very different tone, a very different direction with a track like this. Definitely feels like the most experimental track on the entire album. Then you've got a track like Mess, which I absolutely love as well. I think this track is just pure bliss, and the way these synths just seem to be pushed as far as they can go. It's like you're stretching something just as far as it can go before it breaks. And it never hits its breaking point. It's like it's being teased as far as it can possibly go. It's like if you took Robin's With Every Heartbeat and just stretched that instrumental as far as it could possibly go. The closing track might be the most straightforward track on the entire album, but it's no less captivating with how Gabe presents the vocals here. Just again, another fantastic performance. And yeah, man, this is a great album. Just such a great album. It's so exciting from start to finish that you'd be doing yourself a disservice if you don't check this out. One of the most charismatic performers I've heard in 2020 over some of the best production I've heard in 2020. If that's not enough to sell this album, then I have no idea what will get you to check this out, because my God, every track, man, so damn good. I'm gonna go 8.5 out of 10. Definitely one of my favorites of the year, and hopefully you check this out and you agree that it is one of the best of the year too. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. If you check out this album, just share it with as many people as you possibly can, because I think the accessibility of this album and so many of these tracks could go very far, and it could take Comanavago to new places, and they deserve it. They truly deserve it, because this is a fantastic album. And thank you for watching this review. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think, what's your favorite track here. My favorite track changes every time. Do have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss any videos. And goodbye.